What happens when an unkillable monster faces off against another unkillable monster? How would a fight like that even end? In this video, that is exactly what we'll be looking at and finding out who would win if Mahoraga, the secret weapon of the Zenin clan, had to throw down with another monster that possesses similar abilities. Superman's most powerful villain, Doomsday. In this exclusive cross-universe battle, we'll delve into each character's strengths, durability enhancements, and their overall combat expertise. A word of caution, we will be diving into Jujutsu Kaisen manga spoilers within the Mahoraga segment as we analyze the intense showdown between Satoru Gojo and Ryomen Sukuna. So let's dive into it. Who is Mahoraga? If you're following along with the series, you've probably seen Megumi do this particular hand seal quite a few times throughout the show. This special move that even Sukuna has been shown to be wary of has been constantly teased and foreshadowed since all the way back in the first episode. This seal is part of Megumi's 10 Shadows techniques, one of the strongest curse techniques in the verse that allows him to summon up to 10 different Shikigamis. The Divine General Mahoraga is one of these 10 Shikigami, but unlike the others, Mahoraga is no ordinary Shikigami. Because you see, the way the 10 Shadows technique works is that Megumi has to first exercise the Shikigami he summons in order to use them. But Mahoraga, being the powerhouse it is, has not been tamed by any user of the 10 Shadows in the entire history of the technique's existence. The only time we see it being controlled by a 10 Shadows user is when Sukuna takes over Megumi's body and uses the technique. Abilities. Apart from its massive hulking body and raw destructive power that comes along with it, the God Shikigami is also equipped with a few special abilities that make it a truly terrifying opponent. Most notable are its defensive capabilities. The 8-handed Dharma wheel on its back grants it the power to adapt to any and all phenomenon. After getting hit, the wheel on its back starts to turn and the adaptation process begins. The more hits it takes, the faster it adapts. And this ungodly terror doesn't stop there. Once it has fully adapted to any phenomenon presented to it, it keeps going. It adapts even further, figuring out more and more ways to overcome the same problem. Mahoraga's adaptation is not just limited to its defensive capabilities, but to its offensive abilities as well, as we clearly see that in chapter 234 of the manga, where Mahoraga adapts its attacks specifically to bypass Gojo's Limitless technique. The Limitless being one of the strongest abilities in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, which employs the concept of infinity in a way that allows the user to manipulate and distort space at will. Speaking of attacks, let's talk about Mahoraga's offensive abilities. Mahoraga is equipped with the Sword of Extermination, which is a divine curse tool especially effective against cursed spirits because it's enveloped in positive curse energy, which is similar to Gojo's Red, or simply the opposite of the more commonly used negative curse energy. Mahoraga's adaptation makes the sword even more versatile as it can extend to the weapon itself. We see that on display when he changes things up and imbues it with negative curse energy during his fight with Sukuna. Feats. In the universe of Jujutsu Kaisen, Mahoraga holds a terrifying presence. Not only is its regeneration so strong that it can withstand the full force of Sukuna's domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine, a domain expansion that slaughters anything caught in it with slashing attacks. But his raw physical strength packs enough of a punch to send Sukuna flying through several buildings across Shibuya. And keep in mind, Sukuna is a being so powerful that he leveled everything in a 140-meter radius area of the Shibuya district and turned it into dust. When that happened in the manga, Sukuna was not even at his full strength and was actively holding back, making him at the very least a city level threat, if not more, and Mahoraga tossed him like he was just another cursed spirit. The battle against Sukuna during the Shibuya arc has many moments that show us how Mahoraga scales to 15-finger Sukuna. From tanking several direct punches from Sukuna to straight up deflecting his slash attacks dismantle like it was a beach volleyball. During this battle, Sukuna even states that if Megumi had unleashed Mahoraga back when they first fought in the first season, Mahoraga could have actually killed him. However, since we don't know the extent of Sukuna's actual power and his curse technique is shrouded in mystery, it might just be easier to scale Mahoraga to someone that we do know something about. The strongest sorcerer of the modern age and the user of the Six Eyes and the Limitless technique, Satoru Gojo. During the fight between Gojo and Sukuna unleashed Mahoraga on Gojo and we see Mahoraga cut through Gojo's Limitless, slicing his arm off like a hot knife through butter. And not just once, but twice, since the method used by Sukuna to finally kill Gojo was also one that Mahoraga's adaptation had figured out, so credit goes to Mahoraga. But Could Mahoraga alone have defeated Gojo? We don't know, but it's possible. In chapter 117, Gojo tells Megumi that, same as him, there was another user of both the Six Eyes and the Limitless in the past that was killed off by a user of the Ten Shadows. Later, Megumi hypothesizes that the Ten Shadows users must have used Mahoraga to kill them both, giving us a clue on how Mahoraga compares to the Limitless and Six Eyes techniques. Who is Doomsday? Now, as far as adaptation goes, there have been several iterations of similar powers that allow whoever has them to become the most unkillable character in their universe. None more obvious or mainstream than Doomsday and his ability of self-evolution. Doomsday is an ancient power of Kryptonian origin and one of the toughest primary antagonists for the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Doomsday is a bioengineered superweapon created by an alien species on Krypton back to its ancient past. It was created with the intention of making the perfect being that could survive any environment and even overcome death itself. To become this perfect being, Doomsday suffered countless cycles of death and rebirth that turned him into a vicious rage monster that hates all living things. Because Doomsday has been around for so long and has been part of many different storylines, there are simply too many versions of the character to consider. So, for this video, we will mostly be sticking to Doomsday as depicted in his appearance in the animated feature film, The Death of Superman. Abilities. Similar to Mahoraga, Doomsday's standout ability is his adaptation, only in this case, it's called self-evolution, an ability that allows him to evolve and become resistant to anything after dying from it once, meaning he can't die the same way twice. Doomsday is also incredibly strong and his durability makes him invulnerable to any form of damage, so much so that he can go toe-to-toe with Superman and tank several hits without being phased. In Justice League Apocalypse War, which is in the same continuity, we see Superman take on Darkseid, another big bad of the DC animated universe, whose whole thing is conquering planets, making him a planetary level threat, albeit he uses an army of parademons for that. So, by himself, he's probably around a national level threat, and that's where we can also play Superman, at least in the animated universe. Now, back to Doomsday. Doomsday is functionally immortal, so unless someone or something kills him, he won't just die of old age or disease. Another terrifying ability this death machine possesses is that it can come back from the dead, and we're not just talking simple regeneration. Remember how we said he evolves after he died from something? Yeah. Emphasis on after he dies. This abomination can fully die and then re-alive itself from whatever's left, making him truly unkillable. Doomsday can also somewhat evolve his offensive capabilities, as we see that during his fight with Superman, where he copied Superman's laser vision after getting hit by it. Feats. In the 2018 animated movie, we see the Justice League face off against Doomsday, and it is brutal. Not only did he one-punch Hawkman, but Doomsday broke through Green Lantern's constructs without breaking a sweat, and those constructs are nothing to scoff at. Green Lantern's constructs are made of pure willpower, and we regularly see him create things as tough as tanks, cannons, missiles, and even a spaceship at one point. Even Doomsday's arrival goes to show how durable he is, considering that he crashed into Earth attached to a meteor, basically surviving the full force of a meteorite impact. He completely wrecked the Justice League members, facing no resistance until Wonder Woman showed up, but even she was defeated by this walking tank. He broke Wonder Woman's sword, a magically empowered item, with his bare fist. In Justice League War, we saw that this sword effortlessly sliced through advanced alien armor and even pierced Darkseid, but it couldn't even scratch Doomsday. Wonder Woman would have died if Superman hadn't shown up. Speaking of Superman, without a doubt, Doomsday's most significant and absolutely insane feat is that he is one of the few rare characters that have managed to actually kill Superman, as shown in the 2018 movie Death of Superman and 1992 comic by the same name. Given that Superman is in the ranks of the strongest character in the DC universe, that puts Doomsday right up there along with him, if not higher. Face Off. Now that we know who these titans are and what they can do, the question remains, who would win in a fight between the god Shikigami, Mahoraga, and the mindless death machine, Doomsday? Both of the two are comparable in strength as they scale up to the strongest in their respective verse, with Gojo being said to possess enough curse energy to power a country and Superman in the DC animated universe being just about as strong. Going into battle, it should be noted that while both of the creatures are primarily brawlers, their intelligence would definitely give them an edge in a fight. Both Mahoraga and Doomsday are mindless killing machines, but unlike Doomsday, Mahoraga is never alone. Since he is a Shikigami, he is always in the presence of or being controlled by the cursed user that summoned him. Having a 10 Shadows user on the field fighting as well wouldn't really be a fair fight, as they can summon several other Shikigami to assist, or even an amalgam of Shikigami called Agito. Alternatively, the user could simply drag Doomsday into the shadows created by the technique, effectively trapping him and drawing the match. So, for the sake of this battle, we will keep the involvement of the cursed user to just the summoning and dispelling Mahoraga. Entering into the field, the two behemoths would waste no time and start throwing hands immediately. However, this exchange of punches wouldn't do much to their opponent because both of them have counters to basic attacks. Mahoraga's initial barrage of punches would hardly deal any damage to Doomsday's invincible exterior, and while Doomsday's attack might damage Mahoraga, Mahoraga would instantly heal using his adaptation ability. Unlike Doomsday, Mahoraga can adapt during the fight and doesn't need to die before it can evolve against an enemy's attack, giving him a massive advantage in the fight. With their physical strengths reaching a stalemate and both fighters recovering faster than the other can deal damage, this fight would come down to who can completely blitz the other one in a single attack. Keeping in mind that both of them can come back from even a single fragment, so if the attack doesn't completely disintegrate them, then they'll come back even stronger. Out of the two of them, only Doomsday has an attack capable of one-shotting his opponent, and that is his heat vision. Although we don't see him use his heat vision like this in the movie, it's always seen being used as a narrow beam and not one big blast. It is still reasonable to assume that Doomsday could make it wide enough to vaporize Mahoraga completely, ending Mahoraga and sending him back to the shadows. However, the 10 Shadows is a much more complicated technique than that. You see, for Mahoraga to be fighting Doomsday, there are two ways this could have happened. One, either the cursed user summoned Mahoraga and made Doomsday part of the exorcism ritual, the same as what we see Megumi do during his fight with Haruta. Or two, Mahoraga has already been tamed by the cursed user and the user has simply summoned it to fight Doomsday. If it's the first one and Mahoraga hasn't been tamed, the cursed user just has to hide and bid his time waiting for Mahoraga to finish off Doomsday. If Doomsday kills Mahoraga during the ritual, the cursed user can just restart the whole process over and summon Mahoraga again. Coming back and being blitzed like that is something that Doomsday can definitely not do. In fact, the cursed user can bring Mahoraga back as many times as they want, given that they have enough curse energy. And the users themselves aren't really at risk of getting killed by Doomsday either, because 10 Shadows technique users can hide in the shadows they create. Now, if it's the second thing, then it's a little more difficult. Once a Shikigami is tamed, if it gets killed, the user can never summon it again. So, if a tamed Mahoraga is killed, it's gone for good, but the cursed user can dispel them whenever they want. We see Sukuna do that during his fight with Gojo, when he uses Mahoraga to break Gojo's domain, and then we don't see him again until it has fully adapted to Gojo's limitless technique. Similarly, the cursed user can dispel Mahoraga whenever he's about to die, giving him time to recover and adapt before bringing him back into the fight. Regardless of how it happens, once he's back, Mahoraga will try to use the sword of extermination on Doomsday. From what we see in the manga, Mahoraga can alter its curse energy specifically to counter its enemy's unique abilities. Mahoraga could endlessly alter the energy enveloping his sword till it finds something that Doomsday cannot adapt to, because frankly, Mahoraga's adaptation is far superior to that of Doomsday. Doomsday is a bioengineered weapon whose ability to adapt is encoded in his DNA. It implies that there is a biological limitation to how far his evolution can go. On the other hand, Mahoraga's abilities has no such restrictions, and it can adapt to not just deadly attacks but to all phenomenon in general. So much so that it can evolve to attack concepts like space and existence itself, as we see in chapter 236 of the manga. This ability is straight up broken. With his laser vision adapted to and no other ways to take down Mahoraga, Doomsday would eventually succumb to Mahoraga's adaptation. It would be a slow process, but Mahoraga would eventually kill Doomsday for good and win this battle. Alright everyone, those were our thoughts on what would go down if Mahoraga ever fought Doomsday. Let us know your thoughts down below and comment if you think Doomsday should have won this fight. And for those eager to witness Mahoraga take on Satoru Gojo, be sure to check out this video right here.